Do you need some quality boxing shoes? Well, I recommend the Reebok Classic Boxing Boots. It's the same kind of boxing boots that other famous pros such as Conor McGregor has used to train for their upcoming fights. If you want to be able to move like a champ, then you can check out these videos in the back. Yeah, I'm like Ali in these boots. Also, some of the most quality and sturdy training mitts on the market are the Title V2T gloves. Okay, these things will last you an incredibly long time. I've trained on these things substantially for over 1 year. I couldn't recommend another brand that gives you the most quality for the same amount of money. Link, of course, is in the description below.
On September 16, 2017, two of the boxing's biggest stars collide in one of the most anticipated matchups of the entire year. I'm your host, King Brimeses Camara, and welcome to Neutral Corner, where we take fighters from past and present from all prominent combat sports and stack them up against each other in a fictitious head-to-head battle, going by their statistics, accomplishments, and attributes to hypothesize who would be victorious in a fight between two combatants. Today we'll be discussing the upcoming matchup between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. First we'll be weighing in Canelo Alvarez, who started boxing at the age of 13. He was an amateur, he had an amateur record of 44-2, and he turned professional at the age of 15, shortly after he won the Junior Mexican Boxing Championship in 2005. Since then, he has captured 2 world titles and has defeated some of the biggest names in boxing at the tender age of 26, with 1 draw and 1 loss being that from the only infallible fighter in sports history, which was Floyd Mayweather the Great. With 50 wins, and 34 knockouts, Alvarez is at 71 KO ring and is ranked the world's best boxer pound for pound by BoxRec.
Before turning professional, Gennady Golovkin had an astronomical amount of 350 amateur fights, winning silver medal in the middleweight division in the Olympics and 3 different gold medals at international tournaments prior. As a professional, he holds all 4 of the middleweight world championships with 36 victories and an unprecedented 33 knockouts, giving him the highest knockout percentage in all of middleweight history with roughly 91%. When it comes to size, Triple G is 5 feet 10 inches and has an identical wingspan of a 70-inch reach. Canelo is 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. Since Golovkin is an inch taller and has been fighting at heavier weights, I will have to give the advantage to size with Golovkin in this round. However, I do not think that it will make the biggest difference in this particular fight.
I'm not contesting that Triple G has the edge in power punching, but I do have to say that his advantage to power punching isn't as large as most people might think. While he does have a smaller percentage, Canelo does have the same amount of knockouts as Triple G. He has also fought far harder competition than Triple G as well. The best opponent Triple G has fought was in the form of Kell Brook, which he did manage to get the KO victory over Kell Brook, but he did not knock him out cold. He managed to break Kell Brook's orbital bone in the first round, both in part to Kell Brook not being wise enough to jump up and wait and fight Triple G, and also partially to the fact that Kell Brook was not wise enough to stand right in front of Triple G and not being mobile as he should have in the first round. He even knocked down Daniel Jacobs in the first round earlier this year, and Daniel Jacobs was the bigger and heavier guy by a significant amount. Now, Canelo did put on a better performance against an opponent with a full size advantage such as Chavez Jr., though he did not get the knockdown. So yes, Triple G has a higher knockout percentage, but he's not putting people to sleep like Deontay Wilder is. And he mainly has a higher knockout percentage due to him fighting lesser capable opponents than Canelo. Despite that, if I had to quantify power, I would still give the edge to Triple G.
Triple G is unquestionably the most feared man in boxing today, and for good reason. He's more than just a championship boxer, he's a force of nature, with him being undefeated and having the highest KO percentage in middleweight boxing history, as well as one of the most successful amateur fighters the world has ever known. He is normally viewed as a calculating pressure fighter. He has strong fundamentals, and his uncanny ability to take a punch is only surpassed by his ability to give one. He isn't the quickest or savviest fighter, but it never stopped him from being able to turn into an avalanche and crush his opponents. You're talking about a guy that's never been knocked down in the ring, even while sparring. I'm glad that Triple G is finally getting the recognition that he deserves. He's currently 35 years old, but he should have begun this kind of spotlight over a decade ago for all the hard work he put in those 386 fights. Canelo Alvarez is a mixture of all the great Latin fighters wrapped in one. He has the speed and savviness on par of that of Hector Camacho and Oscar de la Hoya, power punching as Roberto Duran and Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. His counter punching ability is better than that of Juan Manuel Marquez. And of course, there are many other great Hispanic fighters that I could compare him to, but it's a very long story. Canelo Alvarez surpasses Golovkin in every other way, such as speed and experience. Maybe not the power part. There aren't really many fighters in the sport today as well versed as Canelo Alvarez. He has tremendous boxing IQ. He has beaten the fastest blitzer in the game, which was Amir Khan. He spanked other Hall of Famers such as Miguel Cotto and Shane Mosley. He adapts and recognizes patterns faster than most fighters in the game. His chin and stamina are substantial, and his substantial boxing ability make him near impossible to stun or hurt in the early rounds. The longer he's in the fight, the stronger he gets, and the more difficult it becomes to defeat him.
Canelo has fought much better competition than Triple G. Most of the people that Triple G has fought has came up in weight just to fight him, such as Kell Brook, for example, who jumped up 2 weight classes just to fight Triple G. Canelo and Triple G have the same amount of knockouts despite Triple G having a higher KO percentage, which is mainly due to him fighting C-class fighters. Plus, his last victory was a controversial win against Daniel Jacobs. Chavez is of equal size to Daniel Jacobs and has a better resume than Jacobs overall, and he didn't stand a chance against Canelo. Canelo Alvarez is one of the very few fighters today that could potentially become greater than Floyd Mayweather himself. It's true that he did lose to Mayweather. He lost to Mayweather when he was 23 years old, however. No matter how gifted and powerful you are at the age of 23, there is little that you can do against the greatest fighter of all time, Floyd Mayweather. But what would happen if Mayweather and Canelo fought again in their young 30s, which would be very interesting? Canelo has beaten some of the best fighters from the Mayweather era. He is currently in the process of being the best fighters of his own era. 8 years from now, when he's the same age as Gennady Golovkin, I see Canelo Alvarez stomping over the competition in that era. To put that in even better perspective, Canelo is the youngest fighter to ever win a super welterweight world title at the age of 20. He has been dominating the game since he was a teenager. Fighters like Vasyl Lomachenko, who has over 400 amateur fights, has less than a dozen pro fights. And let me check, he was only 29 years old. He isn't very big for his weight class. He hasn't fought the very best in the sport yet. And I doubt that they'll have a reign as long as Mayweather, regardless of how successful that he becomes. Fighters like Keith Thurman can probably succeed at super middleweight. Now you take Triple G, who has almost 400 fights as well. He has 37 pro fights, but he's 35 years old. He fought most of his professional career in obscurity and has just started to get the proper notoriety within the last 5 years or less. And I don't blame Triple G for not fighting the best possible competition that he could have. Competition like Andre Ward, or even the likes of Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Instead, I blame the managers and the promoters and the powers that be in the boxing world for making most of Triple G's opponents having to come up in weight just to fight him. While Triple G's chin, pressure game, and power punching is exemplary, he is lacking the defensive and savvy department skills that he would need to be somebody like Canelo. A fighter like Canelo Alvarez can literally reinvent himself as a fighter at the age of 26 if he had to. The chances of a 35-year-old zebra changing his stripes at the age for the rest of his career or within a few months for this fight is extremely improbable. At this point of his career, it is best to stick to what he knows and what he has been working rather than change. This fight is very similar to Mayweather versus Canelo, except the roles have been switched. In this particular case, Canelo is Mayweather and Triple G is Canelo. It would help if Triple G was a great boxer that could fight going backwards, but he's not. Unquestionably, he's one of the best fighters going forward, but he's prone to take unnecessary shots when he's on the offense. His defensive capabilities are average at best. Then again, he could compensate that with his legendary durability of his chin. The problem for Triple G is that Canelo can fight very well going backwards and arguably has the best punch game of all active current fighters. Both fighters' weakest area, if you want to call it a weakness, are fighters that focus on movement and being evasive. They still tend to get the job done regardless of how defensive or evasive their opponents are. Moving forward is all Triple G knows. If there was more feints and deception behind Triple G's approach, it would be extremely bad for Canelo, but it's not. Triple G has the will to eat a lot of Canelo's shots, but unless he can stay on his bike and keep moving like Chavez did, he's going to get worn down from body shots. Furthermore, I wouldn't be surprised if Triple G got so reckless that he ended up getting knocked out by Canelo. I love both fighters. This fight deserves to be one of the highest grossing pay-per-view fights of all time. It's one of those fights that shows that boxing can still grow after the Mayweather era. The difference between Triple G and Canelo, however, is that you can't fault Triple G due to his boxing ability and the competition that he has fought throughout his career. In the case of Canelo, it's very difficult to discredit his career. Anything that is a blemish on his resume, such as a loss to Floyd Mayweather Jr. the Great or a tough fight against Lara, you can fault to his young age and the fact that he was inexperienced. Thank you guys very much for being a part of Neutral Corner episode 7. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't you dare forget to subscribe. Please comment below, let me know what you think, and let me know who you guys are picking for this fight. It's your boy, King Brightness Chimera, your girlfriend's favorite fighter. I'm out.